It's 8 o'clock. I apologize for the little bit of snafu with the food. There's always some growing pains as we sort things out, but I think Scott from the Athenaeum is looking for some plates, and there's some quiche and muffins and fruit out there in addition to the coffee and tea. So sorry it wasn't ready ahead of time. Also, restrooms, the best way to find the restrooms is actually to take the elevator down to the bottom floor, and there's some restrooms right there. So good morning, and welcome to the first of the 5 legislative breakfasts hosted by the Northeast Kingdom Chamber of Commerce. We are delighted to have you join us this morning for an important series of conversations that bring together our community, our business leaders and legislators to discuss the challenges and opportunities shaping the Northeast Kingdom. We'd like to take a moment to express our heartfelt thanks to our sponsors that make this series possible. A special thanks to our gold sponsors who sponsor all of the events of the Northeast Kingdom throughout the year, and that would be Pasumsic Bank for their unwavering support of our local businesses and communities, Vermont State University, a vital partner in education and workforce development, and Better Real Estate for helping individuals and families call the Northeast Kingdom home. We're also deeply grateful to our legislative sponsors, which are North Country Assessments, for their contributions to the growth and sustainability of our region. We have some cards and information right where you signed in if you want to know more, as well as the Vermont Economic Development Association for their dedication to creating economic opportunities across Vermont. We are especially thrilled to be hosted here today by the Athenaeum, one of our region's cultural treasures. You just look around and it's absolutely stunning. A warm thank you to the Athenaeum team for their hospitality as well, and to their new director, Casey Guell. Welcome, as she embarks on her own new chapter of leadership. Please take a moment also to sign up for the Athenaeum newsletter. I'm going to take this and pass it along for anyone who's interested. There are a couple pens at each table. Of course, many thanks today to our legislators who are here. Your presence and willingness to engage reflect a true gift of this region, the ability to connect directly with those shaping policy and advocating for our communities. We look forward to a morning of meaningful dialogue, collaboration, and shared ideas that will help move the Northeast Kingdom forward. Thank you for being here. We are going to give our legislators an opportunity to introduce themselves, share what committees they're on, and list some of their priorities, and leave as much time as possible open to the community for asking questions. I think, well, actually, historically, we've started with our senators just to give your first introduction. Senator Ingalls, I think you've been the longest serving senator at the table. Would you please get us started?
Good morning. So really nice to see so many faces here. It's just, we like to come out here, we like to tell what's going on, but we like to tell it to a crowd. And this is a crowd, so thank you for coming, and a lot of new faces. Senator Russ Ingalls, on my 3rd term. I am chair of Senate Agriculture, which is a new chair for me, which I'm very honored to do. I'm replacing Senator Bobby Starr. I was very honored to chair the Agriculture Committee because that's what we are. When we look at the 3 counties that I'm in, Orleans, Essex, and Caledonia, we have the most farms of all of Vermont. So you should probably have somebody who understands that, understands our area, and understands the impact of what all farming does to the state of Vermont. I'm also back on Senate Institutions, which is another great committee that spreads a bunch of information and dollars across all the state of Vermont. Senate Institutions bonds dollars to grow Vermont, infrastructure into clean water. Also, all the government buildings in the state are under our purview, the expansions, everything that goes along with that. So very, very honored to be back there. We had a lot of projects that were going on, and certainly would like to see those through. We have a lot of legislators here today. I'm not going to take a lot of time. And I want to touch on one subject that my other senator, my good friend, Senator Beck, is going to take on. because he is our policy expert on that. But I just want to give my take on education. There's going to be a lot of questions about that. It's what we have is broken. I think when all of you received your tax bills this year, you are starting to understand that. And it also created a wave of different faces into the State House, the biggest in the country. So I just want to say this about the education part of it. We have to be bold. We have to be inventive, and we have to just keep our minds open that what we're trying to fix right now is unworkable. We have tried this and we've tried that, but we're basically building something on a crumbling foundation. I brought just two maps today. This one, it's going to be hard to see, but I'm just going to tell you what it is. Here's the new proposal. It's the 5 districts that the governor's proposing right here. Pretty clean, all of that. And I get it. Okay, are we just going to look at one proposal? Yeah, well, let's look at another proposal. Well, let's look at the proposal of what we're doing right now, which is 119 districts and 52 supervisory unions. You wouldn't do that. You would not, as a new idea, pull this up and say, oh, that's a great idea. So my mind is not made up on anything other than the fact that we should probably try to expand on this right here and find something that works. And we have a long process to go, and I'm excited to listen and to learn and hear from the community about what's important to them. But I know this, $2.4 billion to educate a little over 80,000 kids, $27,000 per student, and middle of the pack results are not what Vermont signed up for. So other than that, the mood in the State House is different. There seems to be an idea that we should probably work together. That is in part because of what you folks did at the polls. You said that you wanted us down there working with one another, listening, stop the bickering, get along, get in the rooms, figure it out, make Vermont a better place. And so far, that is the attitude that's down there. And to be honest, very refreshing. So with that, I'm going to leave room for questions at the end because we never do get enough questions. And thank you very much for coming. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Senator Beck?
Thank you, Russ. For those that don't know me, I'm Scott Beck. I was a House representative for this area for 10 years, and now I'm over in the Senate. This year I'm on Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee. That's my morning committee. And my afternoon committee is the Senate Finance Committee, which is the committee where all the tax rates are set in the state, including the property tax rate. And I'm also the Senate Minority Leader this year. And I serve on a variety of other committees. I can tell you that the first 11 days of the session have been very traditional 11 days. What happens the first 11 days there are a lot of what I call 101 briefings and getting to know the other people in your committee and the other people in the building, especially the new people in the building. And there are two things that have to happen before the real conversations start. And one is the E-Board has to meet, and they met last week. The purpose of the E-Board is for the administration and the legislature to come to an agreement on how much revenue the state of Vermont can expect to receive the next year. And then what will happen tomorrow is we'll get the first look at the governor's budget recommendation as to how much we should spend next year and what we should spend it on. And once we have those two things in place, that's kind of where the conversations begin and priorities are discussed and debated. And so I think you'll see after the governor's address this week, tomorrow, that things will start to heat up. My caucus, Senate Republicans, and Russ, we're focused on the 4 things that Vermonters told us that they wanted fixed at the last election, which was affordability, which includes property taxes, and the proposed clean heat standard, housing affordability and availability, and public safety. And so I think that's what we're focused on working on and making some changes to make Vermonters' lives more affordable. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Beck. Representative Powers, would you start us off with the representatives?
Good morning. Debbie Powers, represent Vernon for Athenaeum Group, and I'm on the healthcare committee. How's this? I'm on the healthcare committee. We've had a bunch of testimony, changing a few bills with verbiage only, no cost yet. Along with our senators, we're concerned about affordability, public safety, and housing, education.
Marty, thank you. Senator Feltus. Or, excuse me, Representative Feltus, I apologize. You've gotten a promotion today, I'm sorry.
Marty Feltus from Caledonia 3, which is Linden, Sutton, Sheffield, Wheelock, and Newark. Welcome, everybody, this morning. Just briefly, as we had started out this meeting, I will tell you I have been appointed to the House Ways and Means Committee, which is the taxing committee, and we will be working with the Senate Finance Committee, for which Senator Beck is a member. My goals for this season are to work on education system and the education finance, and that will be particularly in the committee that I'm working on. My goals are also to lead Vermont in a way of talking about our energy and climate issues in a more responsive and practical way for Vermont. And to my mind, that means changing the Global Warming Solutions Act so that the goals, the mandates that are there now for emission reductions are considered to be goals as opposed to mandates, and that we also remove the right to sue from outside parties who say, no, we haven't met them yet. And it also, to me, means that we need to look at our overall energy and diversity plans in order to focus more on resilience as opposed to simply emissions reductions. Those are things that will be taken up in the Senate Environment and Energy Committee, as well as the House has an Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee. Those are the issues that will be taken there. So I will be following those as well as the ones that are specifically in my committee for Ways and Means.
Thank you.
Good morning. Greg Burke, representative for Cabot, Danville, and Peacham. This is my first session. Thank you. Sorry I'm late this morning. Plowing some snow. My wife and I have a farm in Cabot, Burt's Apple Orchard, and we also do maple sugaring, so I'm trying to balance everything right now. But I'm on the Agriculture, Food Resiliency, and Forestry Committee. First couple of weeks, we're meeting a lot of people I've never met before, and meeting people within the Agency of Agriculture and other entities. We got a great committee, 8 members. Richard Nelson, dairy farmer in Irisburg, is on that. Jed Lipsky is a logger from Stowe. Heather Supernaut is a small-scale organic farm in just north of Woodstock, Barner. And so I think we got a really good committee this year, people that already have expertise going into it. And my main goals, I didn't actually hear what we were asked to speak about, but gleaning from what was said, I obviously want to promote and help our agricultural systems to really endure and to prosper. I'd love to see more farms that are not just scraping by, but excited to hand it to the next person, the next generation, and feel like they're making a good living at it. So there are many ways to do that, I think. But as we connect with the Agency of Agriculture and figure things out, I think I'll discover what are the best avenues for us to invest our dollars as a state toward furthering that goal.
Thank you, Representative Burke. Bert, and now Representative W.
Good morning. I'm Debbie Dolgan. I represent St. Johnsbury, Concord, and Kirby. And I gotta say one thing. I'm impressed that you all found a parking spot. But it's great to see such an outturn here. And I just want to say that you can go onto the legislator website and you can watch everything that's been presented. We're transparent. So if you want to know what's going on in these committees, you can watch, and you don't have to watch live time, you can watch anytime. So that's a great resource for all of you. On the Housing Committee, we just started out by hearing about groups that are already in place and what they do for communities. I would have to say monies that come from federal government and state and even town, and also private sector. There are private people that will take on a project and with their own funds will put housing out on the market. And that's what we're looking at right now, is like all the different ways that housing can be brought to the Vermonters.
Thank you. We had Scott Campbell and John Kazenska and Beth Quimby all wanted to come today. They were unable due to some health challenges. But John Kazenska did give me one note to read. He said, "For those of you whom I have not met, I am John Kazenska, representing the Essex-Caledonia district that includes the towns of Burke, East Haven, Victory, Granby, Guildhall, Lunenburg, Maidstone, Brunswick, Bloomfield, and Ferdinand. My committee assignments are Appropriations Committee, Canvassing Committee, member of the Rural Caucus, and a member of the Vermont National Guard and Veterans Affairs Caucus." And a snapshot of his priorities for the session. Given my appointment to the Appropriations Committee, my attention is focused on affordability issues as we address funding to support our current obligations, balanced with any potential new funding requests included in the governor's budget address and/or funding requests from the policy committees, but also tracking housing, school funding, and public safety. So now I'd like to open it up to the community for asking questions.
To Senator Ingalls, the proposals that you described to us, are they available online?
Yes, they are. Go to the go to the Agency of Education, you'll be able to pull that off. You're welcome.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a question. School choice is important in the Northeast Kingdom here, so I don't know if there's a lot out there yet about school choice, but please help preserve that if at all possible.
I can tell you that the makeup of the committee and the Senate is absolutely, positively with that in mind. We had some real angst about what that was going to look like. The chair of that committee, Seth Baumgartz, has Burr & Burton in his district. It's very, very important. That's a committee that's evenly split amongst Republicans, Democrats, Progressives. I do not think that we are going to face the battles and the uncertainties that we had last year with trying to undermine school choice.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I was on House Education during Act 46, so I know this subject very, very well. And if you go back to any consolidation plan, going back to yesterday, I read the Hoff report from 1963. This has always been an issue. We are stacked very well in the Senate to make sure that no damage is done. And I think you might even see some creative solutions that haven't been offered in the past.
And as we're waiting for the next question, some people might not want to speak out. If you'd like to leave and make a note on a note card that's on the table, please feel free, and we'll collect those as well.
Yes, I would. I've spent a lot of hours studying and working on plans for flood prevention in our area here. And I'm wondering if any of you up there have any ideas on what we can do to prevent floods damage that we've suffered this past summer and the past year and going back a couple years.
Well, I can speak for the town of Linden, and obviously Ken is aware of what Linden has done. We applied for a grant a couple of years ago to have a study to indeed investigate opportunities for mitigation of the flooding that we see at the north end of Lindenville. Our focus at that time when we sought the grant was to look at that critical intersection of Route 5, 114, and 122, which always fills up with water when we have high water and not heavy floods, but just high water. And nevertheless, we've gone through a study, very extensive. We have come up with a couple of possible, not solutions, but ways of mitigating the issues and ways of lessening the flooding. And we are applying for additional funding to actually implement those two particular projects. There are funds available in the state for other communities to do the same thing. There's $69 million, I believe, to the state of Vermont from FEMA to help communities come up with projects they actually can implement. It's based on those who already have some planning done ahead of time, which is why Linden was able to qualify for them, we hope, because we did the previous studies. But there are those kinds of programs that are available. I suspect there will be some legislation proposed this year to relax some standards for rebuilding roads, to relax some standards for other things that will allow communities to rebuild a little more easily and a little more quickly than you might normally do. But there are options available through the Agency of Natural Resources to do those kinds of things. Thanks.
I think the only thing I'd add to that is A&R is starting, I think, to loosen up on the removal of debris from our rivers and also strategic selective dredging, which I think could provide some help in some certain spots.
I want to add to that as well. It's sometimes changing the mindset of government that, you know, the problems that are there are the problems that are there. And the government or some of the groups have been very hesitant to admit that maybe there is some selective dredging that needs to be done. But I can just point you into some of the areas of concern in our area that continually flood over and over and over again. Go down the North Wolcott Road. From the time that you get on that road and meet the river all the way down to where that river dumps into the Memorial Valley, the Memorial River, it is just, there's no place for the water to go. Look at Route 15, where Route 15 and 16 meet and follow it into Hardwick. There's no place for the water to go. There's just no place for it to go. So with that, and I think there's just a lot of dollars out there, or a lot of mind shapes that are going on, saying that when we build these things back, let's not just put the bridge back. Let's increase the culvert size. Let's increase what we need to do to make sure that water will properly flow in a large amount, and so or flood into allow it to get to the floodplains to disperse the way that it's supposed to do. But I think the mindset is changing. All options are open, and so far, with what I've seen, I like that everybody's nodding their head in the right direction.
This is Chad Whitehead, St. Johnsbury Town Manager. I want to thank you all, our legislative branch. You're always engaged. I'm here to, as a representative of our executive branch. I know there's a lot of select board members here. A lot of our executive duties are passed along to our human services partners in town. I know that I see a couple of our executive directors here. We're here to be available to you, to provide testimony when you need it, You've always been available to listen to us. My question is, are there representatives from the judicial portion of our government in the room? And are any of you engaged with that portion of our government? I mean, if we're going to be all hands on deck, it can't be 2/3 of all hands on deck. And there are issues that need to be resolved. And I invite our other branch of government to come join us in our public conversations when it comes to public safety. And I appreciate all of your support, and I'm here for you as well.
Senator Beck and I started a push to make a constitutional amendment for bail reform, something that's really needed in the state. Because as of right now, the only way that you can keep somebody incarcerated for a short amount of time is if they're a flight risk. What we found out is that we were a couple years off as far as to do constitutional amendments. So should we be in the capacity of where we are, that will be something there. But it is changing within the court. I spoke to Judge Zone, and he is bringing in justices, judges on the bench, and they're starting to reshape the thought process of what a flight risk is. And as he's bringing these people in, I had a 20-minute conversation with him. And what I heard gives me hope. Also to see the governor's emphasis on it. And again, I just can't tell you enough of what it means to hear your voices. And we're starting to hear your voices in a way that we haven't heard in a long, long time. And if you folks don't stand up, if you don't say what you want to hear, what you want to see, then it's just not going to happen. Government is by the people. And you have to keep on making your voices heard, because without you, it's just not going to happen.
Now I just said it's continuous. Our judicial department, the judiciary, they have a very robust outreach program to legislators. They come out to every county regularly to meet with us, to receive us. The Chief Justice of the Vermont Supreme Court is in the State House every week with calling hours. So there's a lot of communication going back and forth right now.
I would just point out that, in the governor's inaugural address, he commented that he wants to change the current youthful offender law, which would, as opposed to continuing to progress and now saying 19-year-olds can be considered in youth court, to stop that progression. The way the law was designed is it was at first 18-year-olds and then 19-year-olds and then 20-year-olds would be considered in youth court. He's saying that's not a good thing, because we have all seen lots and lots of youthful persons who have committed problems in our particular area, and they need to be treated in adult court as opposed to youth court. And that will be a push from the governor's side to the judiciary committees, I'm sure.
I just want to add on what Marty had said. And this is a part where you folks can really, really help. Because I don't think that, I brought this up at a forum that I had at one time, and people were they couldn't believe it. But the push is to get people all the way up to 22 years old to be considered as juvenile and to be put into juvenile court. As of right now, it's up to 18. They want to push it to 19, as Marty correctly said, 20, 21, 22. But the real push is to push them all the way up to 26. So we need you to stand up loud and proud to make sure that, and whatever the number is what the number is. If it's 18, it's 18. If it's 19, it's 19. I don't personally believe that it should be there. I think that, you're 18, you're an adult as an 18-year-old. But you folks really need to make that known that wherever your position is on that, that's where you'd like us to be.
So I have somebody asking a question and then another at the same table. And then whoever is on Zoom, would you please write out your comment, because the audio is not able for us to hear. So just write your question in the comment and we'll get to it.
So, good morning, Karen from St. Johnsbury. Senator Engel's comment and exhortation for us to participate is the perfect segue for my question, which has to do with lobbyists in the State House and how, I know legislators are having to navigate a deluge of information and input both from the community and from from lobbyists. So how is it the community can make our voices heard over those of lobbyists? And what are your personal attitudes towards prioritizing community input over that of lobbyists?
I can tell you my experience with lobbyists in the State House is positive. It's not like Washington. A lot of times, they're the only people that we can get information from. And we don't find them to, yes, they're going to advocate for a certain position, but they're also going to give us information. And if there's one lobbyist on one side, there's a lobbyist on the other side, and we see that. But that is, for me, a lobbyist isn't going to sway me as far as anything that I believe or want to do. The information is helpful. What's going to sway me? I can remember. I mean, CEO Tester's here. Kelsey Stavish is here. A lot of other folks are here. There's been a lot of times where I've had a position on something that it's what I believe. But then I start hearing from my people. And there's numerous times where it doesn't matter what I believe, it's what you believe. And we're all reachable, our cell phones are online, our emails are online. It's the people that speak the most and the most often that I'm listening to. And I'm going to let some other legislators talk about that.
I would only comment that, yes, I certainly pay attention to what individual constituents say to me. I want to make sure, though, that they are coming from a basis of having the information, the correct information. Very often something will get into the social media or into the newspaper, and you catch one little thing, and you think, oh, I don't like this for that one little thing, when you don't really know the whole background. And so that's why we need to have some good public relations. We need to have people pay attention to the issues so that they understand the issue as a whole. And then your particular comment makes sense. It fits in with all of that. So that's something that I always pay attention to when people write to me. I might write back and say, I understand where you're coming from, but did you realize that thus and thus and thus is part of the same problem? So you need to have a broader perspective of the whole thing, and I encourage everyone to pay as much attention as you can so you have that broad information on any particular issue, and then make up your mind.
I think there's a presumption in that question that legislators prioritize lobbyists over the people we represent, and I don't fundamentally believe that's the case. I know it's not the case for myself, and I don't think it's the case for most.
Good, Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Isham, and along with Frank Insel, I'm on the select board here in St. Johnsbury. And as far as property tax, something I haven't heard very much spoken about, and this came up in our budget information at the select board meeting, and is the insurance costs, our health insurance costs. The increase from last year was up to 73% increase. And the reason is because we in St. Johnsbury aren't big enough. So we have a very small group, and so we're paying a higher rate. Now I can imagine these towns that have, a few hundred people, what they're going to have to pay. And a resident in St. J who was at the budget meeting asked, how we pay our insurance. Well, each town pays individually. And I wonder if there could not be a way, a program like VMER, which is the retirement fund, and we know that that has been turned around. Like P-Jack, our state treasurer, reported on getting it closer and closer to be funding. But I really don't care how it is, but some vehicle for all of our towns, particularly small towns, to group together and have a much larger group insurance rate available to these towns. Because quite frankly, if we could have $300,000 more in our budget, I want to put it to essential services, which we are cutting to the bones to keep our property tax rate down. So I wonder if you have ideas about reducing insurance costs for our municipalities. Thank you.
I mean, I think, Steve, I would, my first contact is to contact the Vermont League of Cities and Towns and find out if they've kicked the tires on that idea, because that would seem to be the natural organization that could make that happen.
I was just going to say the same thing.
I have one more question at that table, then I'm going to read the one on the Zoom screen, and then I have a question from Nick over here, and then I'll get you next. Okay? Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful questions.
Hi, I'm Tony from St. J. And I see how when you say with respect to the education system, reducing 32 administrative units to 5 is a certain administrative efficiency there. You can't resist that. Certainly, economy of scale, it would be a cost-saving measure. I guess my concern would be the flip side of that is how do we ensure that the local voices continue to be there even in a broader organizational structure you propose?
In the proposal that AOE shared with the legislature last year, they are working towards what they call school advisory councils, so that each school would have an advisory council that would report to the school board and get that local voice to that board level. They also envision that would be probably a good breeding ground for future school board members. But that's how they contemplate the local voice continuing to be heard in that larger district.
Yeah, I was just going to amplify that. Yeah, the proposal that was presented was these 5 districts with a school board covering, one each of those large districts. They didn't specify how many members would be on that school board. They did indicate that it would probably be a partially paid position, like a part-time job for those persons to be able to manage that school district. And then that there would be school advisory councils as well that would feed up into that. That is the concept in terms of getting local input.
It seems to me kind of a situation of balance between local input and authority versus a more centralized state initiative. And I think that happens. There needs to be a healthy balance in every situation. So with education, my experience in Cabot is that there's almost been a little too much local control, so much that it went off the rails a little bit. And I think it's actually a healthy thing to get a little bit of input from the state, or to a higher degree, to have the state being more involved with how our public schools are run personally.
All right, I'll read the question from Sharon Ellingwood from Leamington, Vermont, NEK Choice School District. I would like to express my thanks to our legislators. I'm a member of the 10-town NEK Choice School Board, which is an all-tuition school choice board that includes Norton, Leamington, Bloomfield, Brunswick, Maidstone, Guildhall, East Haven, Victory, Granby, and Kirby. We did our Act 46 work in a creative way and went from tiny towns to an influential, well representation of rural communities. We are a healthy board, and we've discovered we are all neighbors, all in it for the same thing. It has been a great experience. And can you just zoom down? Oh, thank you. We have representatives and senators, however, in our various towns. The pupil waiting has greatly assisted the county with the highest levels of poverty, per capita elderly residents, etc. I am asking for the House Ed Committee to understand that tuitioning towns to keep their pupil waiting and school choice, which is a lifeline in our area, we simply cannot designate three schools. Parents may take their children to schools in the town where they work, or where the daycare is, where the grandparent is to babysit after school, or where rec programs are, as our towns do not have town centers where parents can have a job. Overall, I would like to express going ahead that diseconomies of scale for towns of our size must be examined. Outlier communities of small size can lose hugely and are often the most vulnerable populations. So it's a comment, not a question, but thank you. It's good to express that. Oh, is there a follow-up? Senator Beck again, tuitioning towns. How do you see these towns gaining representation in a school advisory council where we don't have schools?
Yeah, it's just how it works now is that those people they don't operate a school, So they could not be part of a school advisory council, at least for the grades that they don't operate, but they could be on the school board. So really no different than it is right now.
I do represent Kirby, and Kirby used to have a school, which they shut down. And so now Kirby has school choice. And what amazed me, what I learned, was that they don't do any busing. Like if you want to live in Kirby, it's like you pick your school and you transport your child yourself. And I was like, that's amazing. So it's very important to keep that school choice for towns that don't have schools, because they need to make the best decision for their child.
Hi, so I live in Orleans County. I know that Russ probably knows that they have a meeting tonight about creating sister schools to try to save money up there, which is actually going to increase busing and certain things. Over 80% of Orleans County and Essex rely on busing, getting kids to school. Most of us work. Obviously, I got 2 teenagers, so I can move stuff around. But is the state going to look at making it mandatory for busing for students so people can actually still work, still pay their taxes, and not have to worry about their kids getting to school? Especially now that the sister school, if they vote on this tonight, it's going to increase. Some people, they might have to travel a half hour to get their kids to school one way. There's not a lot of thought process, I think, that goes into it. I think it's a great concept. I think those age groups should be together. School choice is important. I don't disagree, but at what cost? And in OXU, a lot of policies for every district include not the requirement for busing. So that is something that they can cut to try to save money to basically push their initiative. So what do you guys think about that?
I think that if we do this in the right way, all of that will be answered. I don't think that we're looking at any solutions that are going to involve cutting services. I think that we need to find a way to increase services as far as busing and that. And also, one of the first and foremost thought processes are that we don't pay our teachers enough. We don't pay them enough. The problem is where they are right now is that there's not enough money to pay them. So there's going to be a ton of new ideas that are going to come out. But I can promise you this, I'm sure every legislator is up here. I'm going to make sure that a child in Norton or Newport or St. Johnsbury or Cavendish or anywhere else has the same opportunity as a child from Chittenden County. We are going to make sure that, we want to talk about equitable. Everybody wants to talk about equitable until it actually is equitable. We are going to make sure, or I'm going to make sure, that I agree to nothing that is going to diminish what we can allow for education to happen in the Northeast Kingdom. That's just the way it is. I'm excited to see how this is going to shape out. My mind is open to everything. I have no preconceived ideas other than the fact that this one right here, the second choice that we're doing right now, is not working. It is not working. It is just a money pit, and to keep on trying to fix this is not going to work. So I'm open. I hear you. All of us understand rural, and I'll make sure that my voice and your voice is heard when it comes to all that.
Good morning. Frank Adams, Peaceburg. Thank you all for coming today. This is a great forum for everybody. Many of you are aware of what's happened recently with Burke Mountain. Probably have seen the articles in the North Star and Caledonia Record. And I'm just here this morning to try to garner some support from everybody, especially from the legislators, to help petition the judge in Miami to relook at the process of the bidding process and get rid of the stalking horse bidding process. There are a few potential buyers. They do not want to get involved in that process. It did work very well at JP. This is a far different entity down here with the inclusion of Burke Mountain Academy. So if you guys can help give us some advice as to how we can do that. I started an online petition last Thursday evening. We're almost at 550 signatures already on it. Many area businesses also writing individual letters looking for support. But if you can help us or give us some ideas how we can petition the judge down south, we can maybe try to keep the $2 million a year that we're sending to a receiver down in Miami to keep this mountain running. But it is starting to fall into some disrepair. We are worried about it ending up failing or potentially ending up in the wrong hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. In the last month, I have received phone calls from people I never thought I would receive a phone call from outside of the state regarding this very subject. And I think that people are starting to look really closely at what the receiver is doing here, how that's interfacing with the judicial process. Is that good for the state of Vermont? Is it even good for the people that the receiver is trying to protect? And so I hope that we'll start to get some movement here.
I think the next hand is right there, and while the microphone is coming to you, I'm just going to read this one. So Alex, there's a woman at that table. I'm curious about our representative positions, what your representative positions are on protecting refugees and asylum seekers in Vermont. And that's from Mark Levitt, I believe.
I think the state of Vermont has been pretty strong on this the last number of years, that we're open to refugees coming to this country, and we want to be respectful of those refugees, and we have to do all of that while navigating federal structure. I think up until this point, I think Governor Scott has done a fantastic job of navigating this, and I have a lot of confidence in him and his team that they will continue to navigate it very well.
I would agree with that. I think certainly we have a large population, not a large percentage-wise, but we have many people from other countries who have come to Vermont, and they form a good part of the workforce in some of our industries. They are a significant portion in Winooski and Williston, some of those towns. They bring some skills, they bring some cultural awareness to all of us, and I think it's important that we are able to protect those persons. And as Senator Beck says, the governor has done an admirable job in being very diplomatic in terms of covering Vermont's needs and yet being able to still respect the state and the federal laws.
I had a conversation with Peter Welch just the other day about this, and unfortunately, I don't know why it needs to be this way, but the federal government makes that determination about how we can bring guest workers in the state of Vermont. We need to have a better guest worker program that comes in here, because as soon as we have that, I'm going to put 40 employees in Athenaeum, I'm going to put 35 into Columbia Forest Product. We're going to put some into E.H. Wiseman. We're going to have some in our stores. We're going to have a bunch of people that want to come here and live the American dream. I do believe the governor has been very mindful and forceful and thoughtful about the folks that we have here. And even the ones that are here illegally, the ones that are working on our farms and all of that. I mean, I want legal immigration. I want to know who's coming here. But even at that, with what these folks are doing, we owe them a debt of gratitude, and I don't want them going to Walmart to pick up whatever they need to do to live their life and get nabbed and to be sent back when they are doing nothing but trying to better their lives and actually making our lives better as well. So there's a balance there. I think the governor's out in front of that. I think we all have our own opinions about illegal or legal immigrations or where it's at, but I don't know very many legislators that don't have respect for the folks that are here. But we do need a guest worker program. We need it at a state level so that these folks can come here. Whatever it is, I think it would be so simple to do that. And I'm pushing Senator Welch to put that out there, to put politics aside, quit pounding on the other side, just do what's best for your state, and get a bipartisan guest worker program so that we can bring people into the state and keep them out of the shadows of darkness. And that is what I just don't like, these folks that are coming here and have to worry about going anywhere when they're doing nothing. But yes, they are here illegally. But it fundamentally bothers me that we can solve this problem so easy if we just put politics aside. So easy. And I'm pushing Senator Wells to do that.
Hi, my name is Connie Sleet. I'm a real estate broker, and I want to go back to flooding and insurance. I have a client who was not in the flood zone. The property around their home was massacred by the July floods, and then their home was not destroyed. They were unable to get any insurance claims from their insurance company. In fact, their insurance company is dropping them this summer. And now we're trying to sell the property, and that buyer is running into hurdles getting insurance as well. So at no fault of anybody is the insurance problem, but insurance has absolutely got a chokehold on this one particular property. And I know it's not just this property. I know it's many, many others. So I'm just wondering what kind of help can come to these people, because they're absolutely stranded with no resolution, and they're getting dropped by insurance companies after paying, months, years of monthly payments, and now they're getting just shot down whole. So not a good situation, and I don't know how public it is. So, but it is a real problem.
So I work in an insurance agent. See, and flood insurance is expensive. You can get private flood insurance through your bank, but you pay through the nose, honestly. And it doesn't cover a lot. It doesn't cover land. It will cover your home, maybe and whatever you have contents on that policy. It's FEMA that has to take care of everything, unfortunately.
And they're not participating. I mean, they are not cooperating. Right now, they've put them on hold while they do a white nose bat survey to see if reparation would affect the, this is just one property. I think it affects lots of properties.
And it does.
So I think that, FEMA's got a hold on it at this moment for this particular property, for a survey on the white nose bat population to see if reparation of the land will disturb that population.
Well, I think I don't know that we get into the details of the situation. I think all of us.
But my question is at a state level, is there any, what's happening with the insurance industry? How they seem to just be getting bolder and bolder, and does the state have any say? I'm not sure. That's my question.
We don't have enough insurance companies in the state, and that's really the bottom line is we've driven them out. We've driven them out with over-regulation, and actually Blue Cross Blue Shield is on the verge of thinking about leaving the state as well. We do not have enough insurance companies here in the state. And when you don't have the competition, then you run into problems, as Connie's talking about. I'm in real estate as well. I see all of that. But competition is healthy, and I wish I could wave a wand on that. I think you're asking a question that's above our pay grade a little bit, but it's a question that, if we can't answer that question, we got to go, as legislators, go and try to find solutions to it. So it's something we're going to have for a while, and I wished I could wave that wand and fix it, but we're aware of it now. It's been asked. Specifically, we'll ask some questions.
I I just wanted to say, back to Mark Levitt's question about refugees and asylum seekers, that refugees and asylum seekers are here legally. They've gotten legal status to come into our country, and they're not illegal, and the administration is trying to reverse that. And I just wanted to clarify the difference between an illegal immigrant and a refugee and asylum seeker, and that there are organizations in our state that are trying to help the refugees and asylum seekers that are here. They're very scared of what is coming down the line. And a lot of refugees and asylum seekers are highly educated individuals. When they get asylum status, they can't work for a certain period of time. And there are people, if there are people in this room that want to help with that situation, there are people looking for help because they need funding when they get here, they need jobs when they get here, and to Engel's point, they're hiding. They are isolated, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, so the gentleman with his hand up right there. Maybe two, depending on how quick the question is. It's 8:57.
Chase Emsall of St. Johnsbury. Looking through the recently introduced bills, there's one H60, H61. Measles, mumps, and rubella, smallpox, and polio have saved lives. Those that have want to run on improving Vermont and making it healthy. So to Representative Powers and Representative Burke, why do you want to create a breeding ground for deadly diseases to come back and harm our lives?
I just feel that it's necessary for parents to be able to make the choices and not make it a mandate.
Yeah, I agree with Representative Powers. It's more about allowing people to have the choice with their bodies than it is about a health situation. So, and you can debate about that, but I think...
So you might want to be careful on that. So disease?
Okay, well, this is not a commentative time. I would really like to keep the questions. And so Carrie had her hand up.
I want to go back to a slightly different version of the insurance question, and you brought up Blue Cross and Blue Shield. We know that healthcare costs are one of the main drivers of like town budgets and education costs and a whole bunch of other pieces. Are there things the legislature is working on to help bring down those insurance costs and work on the quality of healthcare side as well? And maybe this is a question for Rep. Dolgan, but you're all welcome to answer. Oh no, you're on housing. Maybe Rep. Powers. Sorry, I got your committees mixed up. Table ends.
I know there's bills coming into the Health Care Committee that we haven't exactly gone through piece by piece, and we will be in the coming weeks. So we'll look into it and definitely keep it all in mind.
I just want to, healthcare is just so powerful of a subject. And I don't know how we're going to solve that as a state. I don't think as a 640,000 people are going to sway the healthcare people to reduce rates. But I do think that at some point in time, if we can get our spending under control, as far as, some of these, we just spent $500 million of extra money. Our budget's increased almost half again as much in 4 years' time. We've got a lot of dollars out there that are going to things that we just don't need. They go to politically ideologue ideas. As far as, we're 97% carbon free and we're going to spend $1 billion to get that last 3%. I think we don't need to spend that $1 billion. I think at some point in time, we're going to have to look upon it ourselves and within the state and budget, and we're going to have to say, you know what, healthcare is too damn high. We're going to have to take some of that money, and we're going to have to subsidize our people so that they can afford to do that as we try to solve that bigger problem. But you know, again, I don't know what the answer is, but I hear you. It is way too high.
We'll take one more question.
Hi, Rowena Wago from Waterford. I actually have a couple of questions, but one is a follow-up on the health care. We've all heard about the Green Mountain Care Board's report and, you know, the impact it's having on our sister hospital up north, which has an impact on our hospital here. We are an aging demographic, that's not a surprise to anyone. The net patient revenue cap, do you see anything happening with that in the legislature to help ease the burden for our hospitals? And my other question is related to hospitals as well, but it goes to the housing side. We need to focus on market housing to help people be drawn here and be able to buy their homes and have homes to come to for jobs, not just hospitals, but other professions. You mentioned Weidman. They're spending millions of dollars to keep the plant here. You know, anyone they hire is going to need to be able to find housing, and most people want homes. So I hope that there's as much of a attention to market housing and how to help even private developers be able to afford to build housing developments at reasonable cost.
Thank you, Rowena. You know, I think with healthcare, I think right now, I think everything's on the table. And I think when people are trying to get their arms around it, one of the causal factors, our age demographics, as you mentioned, is a big problem. We ask our hospitals to do a lot. There's a lot of procedures that Vermont asks our hospitals to do. In some cases, provide for free. And we don't have a lot of competition in the insurance market in Vermont. There are ideas out there, capping revenue, as you talked about, reference-based pricing. There's lots of ideas. But the federal layer over this thing is just enormous. With Medicaid and Medicare, what they're doing, you know, Medicaid is a loser for our hospitals. They're losing money on Medicaid procedures. They're barely breaking even on Medicare procedures. And then it's the private insurance payers that are having to make up for all those losses. And a lot of that is federal, right? Medicare, Medicaid are big federal programs. As far as housing, Rowena, I think that I sense a little bit of a shift in the, you know, about 6 months ago, I looked at this problem. I said, listen, the problem is the cost of housing. If the cost of housing was such that private developers could come in this state and build a house and make $1, this problem is solved. Like, right now. But that is not the case. So what can the legislature do? I think one of the best ideas I've heard is, you know, get the permitting and get the regulations streamlined, more predictable, more affordable, I think is a huge one. And infrastructure. You know, everybody, whether you're building affordable, market, anywhere in the spectrum, if your infrastructure is good, people can hook up to it easily and cheaply. That helps all building of all different levels. And so those are some of the ideas that are out there. With that being said, the Kiwanis Pool is having its pipes inspected at 9 o'clock, and I have to depart to make that all happen. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. A reminder that our next legislative breakfast will be February 24th, same time, same place. Thanks to the Kitchen Counter Cafe for bringing the food. There's still plenty left because it arrived late. Please grab some on your way out. Thank you again. The